Amnesia, The Dark Descent is man, I can't actually remember what kind of game it is. It's almost like I have amnesia. Hey yo! Now that I've already lost roughly 90% of my viewership, I'll actually get into it. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is a horror game where you never actually see anything scary because the game penalizes you for looking at spooky things. You see, the game features a mechanic that simulates your character's insanity by having him grind his teeth constantly and developing a case of rapid onset astigmatism. Alongside this, your character is a conscientious objector, and thus cannot fight back against any of the horrors you encounter. This was problematic for me, as I am a caveman and require violence to be engaged. Don't worry, I got around this though by vandalizing my neighbors' homes. As I am anonymous, I will never pay for my crimes. Back to the subject at hand, Amnesia, for better and for worse, would go on to be a very influential game in the horror genre, with many developers learning all of the wrong lessons from it. It also kickstarted many a YouTube career, some of which would go on to accomplish great things, and others even greater things. With a new game in the series having been recently released, I delved into the arcane science of search engine optimization, so join me as I uncover the dark secrets of development lore. Amnesia was created by a studio called Frictional Games, a Swedish game developer that had previously worked on the Penumbra series. Penumbra is, in essence, the spiritual predecessor to Amnesia, featuring a lot of the same design philosophy that would later be refined and expanded upon in that game. The first game in that series was Penumbra Overture, a low-key survival horror adventure through the frigid wastes of northern Greenland that is reminiscent of At the Mountains of Madness and The Thing. Like Amnesia, the primary focus of Penumbra is not on enemy encounters, but instead on exploration and puzzle solving. There's one big difference between the two, though. Penumbra lets you hit shit that you don't like. Yep, it had combat, and by all accounts, it wasn't very good. The controls were extremely clunky, and hit detection was poor. It was widely agreed to be the worst part of the game, so for the sequel, Penumbra: Black Plague, Frictional got rid of it entirely. As a result, Black Plague feels much closer to what they would later go on to develop. After releasing an expansion pack for Black Plague, Frictional began work on their next project. The original goal of this new game was to re-implement combat in a way that was both fun and functional. After some research and development on this front though, the devs ran into an issue that industry vets refer to as the fucking thing won't work, so they decided to once again scrap the combat. Design efforts were refocused towards improving on the key pillars of gameplay that Frictional knew they were good at: exploration, puzzle solving, and enemy evasion. If they can nail these three things down, they would have a winner on their hands. And boy oh boy did they crank out a winner. As a personal anecdote, the first time I ever heard of this game was through Game Informer. I don't remember the exact score, but they gave it a glowing review and called it something along the lines of the scariest game on PC. Being a fan of horror games, I was intrigued, but the single screenshot of some skulls tumbling out of a desk drawer, which I thought looked goofy, and the lack of any console release dissuaded me from doing any significant amount of research on it. My next encounter with this game would be a few years later when it blew up on YouTube. You remember the time everyone with a face and a set of vocal cords was stretching their voice box up to decibels that about broke the sound barrier. It was a simple, innocent time, bereft of cynicism and PUBG bridges. I wouldn't actually own the game until a few years after that, when it was free on Steam for some reason. After that, I still wouldn't actually play the thing for the first time until approximately a week ago. The Bunker came out recently, and I originally wasn't planning on getting it, but it's got some great reviews and looked cool, so I bought it and the other two games, which were dirt cheap, and here we go, I own the whole franchise now. Playthrough time now. The story of the game is thus. You play as Daniel Day-Lewis, who, in an effort to prepare for his role in Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, has mastered the art of time travel and gone back to the year of 1800 and whenever the fuck. He gets into some hijinks which lead him to the Kingdom of Prussia, a country which no longer exists and is today part of Germany. He wakes up in the middle of a creepy castle with no memory of who he is or how he got there, helped only by a note he wrote to himself urging him to descend into the depths of the castle and kill a man named Alexander. Oh, and some scary shit is chasing you or something. We're off to a great start here. We got all the boxes checked for a classic horror story. Spooky castle? Check. Memory loss that thrusts us completely into the unknown? Check. The vague implication of an unknown threat that poses a grave threat to our well-being? Check. Roaches? Oh, fuck. Check. Here's a fun aside. I hate roaches. I'm not normally afraid of bugs, but these fuckers provoke a primal fear within me. These are those hissing fuckers too. What the hell are they doing in Europe? Aren't they supposed to be in Central Africa? Whatever. Anyway, these bastards are the reason I'm the only person that'll tell you that Creepshow is the scariest movie ever made. If they ever make a Fallout game set in Georgia, I'm fucked. I hate these bastards so much that I actually don't mind having spiders in my house, because my logic is if you have a spider problem, you don't have a roach problem. Here's a clip of one jump scaring me early on, by the way. So you start your journey with your first goal being to get into the basement, the exact place you want to be in any horror story. You gotta cook some crystal in a lab, which allows you to get through this flesh wall blocking the door. The places you gotta go to get the shit to make your meth are the wine cellar, where spooky shit happens, and the archives, where you get your first jump scare. I wish I had recorded my voice for this video so I could ravage the eardrums of everyone who watches this. That shit got me good. While we're talking about scary things, let's talk about sanity. Similar to the game's Eternal Darkness, which I will not cover because I'm not a Nintendo guy, and Call of Cthulhu, which I might cover at some point I guess, this game has a system where seeing spooky shit makes your guy lose his shit. He starts grinding his teeth, hallucinates voices, bugs crawl on the screen, your vision gets all fucked up, the works. It's not as creative as Eternal Darkness, nor does it have as much of an effect on gameplay as in COC, but it's still pretty cool nonetheless. On the highest difficulty, it kills you if it gets too low, but I write for Polygon, so I played on normal. So I did the thing with the chemicals and made it into the basement. What do you know? It's that infamous water monster section everyone freaked out at. It's pretty cool, I guess. Definitely stressful. It's invisible in-game, but here's what some concept art says it looks like. This was fun. I kinda wish there were more encounters with these things in the game, but whatever, moving on. You know it's a real survival horror game when you got a safe room theme. New objective, fix this strange device called an elevator. First stop is the basement. It's dark and scary in there, we'll come back to it later. Second stop is the guest room. Nice, brightly lit. What could possibly go wrong here? Man, if only I had thought of that. Alright, let's go to the spooky-ass basement. Wait a minute, didn't we just leave the basement? Only go to a different basement? Whatever, you gotta blow some shit up and there's a lot of monsters that you have to hide from. It actually got pretty intense here. This strategy worked out perfectly. He never actually followed me into the room. Moving on. I fixed the elevator and continued my dark descent into a subterranean prison. It's here that we learn that prior to drinking the Forget-Me-Now potion, Daniel was involved in some less than ethical stuff. You see, Daniel is being chased by this being called the Shadow, which is the source of the weird flesh growths all around the castle. It's pissed at him because he picked up a magic orb in the desert and now it wants to eat him. Daniel doesn't want to get eaten, obviously, so he seeks help from a Prussian baron named Alexander Brennan Fraserberg, who agrees to help keep the Shadow at bay in exchange for Daniel's help in harvesting adrenochrome from people. Just kidding, it's called Vitae. It's probably some life essence thing, not blood. Alright, the prison is one of the scariest places in the whole damn game. It's dark as hell and you got a billion of these guys chasing after you and there's all this backtracking and it's just fucking stressful, man. On the other side though, we got another safe room. New goal is to get into the sewers. This is complicated by the presence of noxious gas, so instead we gotta get the Pfizer vaccine. To get the Pfizer vaccine, we need Vitae from the morgue. To get to the morgue, we need to fix the bridge. To fix the bridge, we need to fix the bridge machine. To fix the bridge machine, we need to do some shit in the cistern I can't remember. The atmosphere in the cistern is awesome. First off, it's flooded, so you're constantly nervous about running into another one of those water monsters, and the whole time you can hear someone trapped in the tank crying and murmuring to themselves. In order to progress, you need to fill the tank with water, and you get to listen to the increasingly frenzied cries of the person inside as the water level rises and they eventually drown. Well, that's fucking morbid. Fix the machine, get into the morgue. Here you get a first-hand look at the process of harvesting Vitae, which is... It is really hard not to make an adrenochrome joke here. You also have your first encounter with the Brute here. I didn't get to know him very well because I ran the fuck away. It's okay though because he comes back in the sewers. You have to throw a rock to distract him, which I didn't do and paid the consequences for. The correct phrase is paid the price, but editing is for cowards so the previous line stays. Final area now. This is the torture dungeon where Alexander and Daniel reenacted all their favorite scenes from Hostel. Here you meet a guy named Agrippa, who is a real person by the way, wrote some shit about mystical practices. I don't know if this part of the game depicts him very accurately, but who cares. It gives you the lore dump on who Alexander really is. Apparently he's some asshole from another dimension who needs to harvest Vitae in order to do some ritual with the orbs to get back home. Why he brought along Daniel, I don't really know, but he talks about bringing Daniel with him and laments his betrayal, so I guess maybe he actually likes the guy. Agrippa then tasks you with making a potion that'll let you cut his head off to let him accompany you at the confrontation with Alexander. In order to accomplish this goal, you need to find a bunch of shit scattered about in all these different torture rooms. Now this was probably the freakiest part of the whole game. The sound design and atmosphere in this section is incredible, plus the brutes remind me of Pyramid Head, who I think is the scariest video game monster ever. Things go smoothly until you get jumped by some grunts who knock you out and lock you in a prison cell. I watched that movie with Stallone and Schwarzenegger though, so I was able to break out and get back to my thing. Saw off Agrippa's head, Jesus Christ, and get on to the final room of the game. You confront Alexander, who exists solely to get YouTube videos deleted, and from here your actions determine the ending you get. As I said earlier, I am essentially the real-life version of the Geico caveman, so I just toppled all his shit over and got the good ending. Alexander gets eaten by the Shadow, and Daniel can return back to the present day to finish his film. Damn, he went through all that and it was Adrian Brody who got the Oscar. Hollywood is fucked up. Now we got the expansion pack, Amnesia Justine. Apparently it's based off a Desaad novel. I've never read anything by the guy, but I know that Sallow is an adaptation of his work, so I can only imagine that this expansion is really fucked up and will eventually get a Criterion release. So we got a text crawl that says checkpoints are for losers and a main menu with a giant vagina right in the middle. Subtlety has apparently been discarded here. Setup. You're some woman in France in the mid-1800s who's been kidnapped by another woman who wants you to go through a series of trials to test how fucked up in the head you are. The whole time you're doing this, you're being chased by Justine's trio of psychotic simps who, through a combination of insanity and their fucking eyes being gouged out, think that you're her. First test is whether or not you can stack boxes. I can, so the dude lived. Neat. Second test is whether or not you can solve puzzles. I can't, so the dude died. Shit. You also get a look at what Justine looks like, and I gotta say, hot damn, she can gouge my eyes out anytime. You get into the basement and meet a guy voiced by the same dude who did the voice for Duke Nukem and has much the same vocabulary.
Kill you, hunt. Eat shit and die.
Into the sewers. I died here and had to restart. The whole thing. The test here is whether or not you'll help this guy or just nope the fuck out of there. The simp started breaking down the door, so I noped the fuck out of there. Sorry, bud. Now you listen to some more recordings, walk down a hall and lose your mind, then one final test. Just kidding, there's not a damn thing you can do here. But wait, there's a plot twist.
This was the best one yet. So elaborate. It's just too much.
It was me, Barry. I was Justine. Well, that was Amnesia. Long-time watcher, first-time player. Overall, I really enjoyed it. Amnesia is one of those weird things where the game is really good, but my main problem is not with the game itself, but the effect it had on the industry. In the wake of Amnesia's success, there grew a trend of these boring-ass roller coaster ride horror games that took this game's no-combat approach and used it as an excuse to make games that were missing the game part. See, the thing about Amnesia is that the lack of combat was made up for by a variety of other very engaging mechanics. A super interactive game world, intricate puzzles, stressful evasion mechanic, and of course, a good story and voice acting. Basically, no one who rode the wave of this game's success even tried to iterate on the formula, or even really replicate what this game did well. The whole "it's scarier when you can't fight back" argument was trot out as an excuse to make games that were essentially just highlight reels for 3D modelers, and featured a minimum of interactivity and writing that was nowhere near on par with the game they were trying to ape. On top of that, most of them were way less scary. Outlast is a really frightening game at first, but it kind of loses all sense of threat or atmosphere when you realize you can literally outrun almost everything in the game. Even Frictional themselves would fall victim to this trend. Their next game, Soma, was basically a walking sim with a story that thought it was way more intelligent than it actually was. Amnesia Rebirth also got rid of a lot of the mechanics found in The Dark Descent. I find it kind of funny how with the bunker they're like, "We've done it, everyone, we've invented gun technology," and I'm just like, holy shit, took you long enough. With that ran over though, I enjoyed my time with this game. I might play some custom campaigns in the future, just for my own fun, not for a video, and it was cool to finally experience what was, for better or for worse, one of the most influential horror games ever made. Hey everybody, if you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thanks. It means a whole lot. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all your standard YouTube outro stuff that you hear at the end of every video. And other than that, I will see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.